Yes, this is now understood. So, one of the things that is absolutely clear, that even though people keep saying that we are more corrupt, actually everybody is a human being. The level of corruption in the USA is much higher than it is here in some ways, depending on how you calculate. So, for example, if you say that the government and the officials deceived their people to launch a war which would kill millions of Iraqi people and destroy a whole nation just for the sake of $1 trillion. So can there be any bigger corruption than that? That's probably the biggest, most corrupt transaction in human history. The global financial crisis occurred because American banks and insurance industry and many other institutions systematically committed fraud upon their own people. They gave. See, what happened was that an instrument was discovered in which, you see, basically you can't sell a mortgage to somebody who is going to default, because you will lose your loan. Now, what happens when the person defaults is that he has put his deposit to buy the house, so he loses his lifetime savings. So it's a very bad thing for everybody. Now, what happened was that there were some insurance companies who were too big to fail, so they started giving insurance. There were these evaluation credit ranking companies. They got commission when they certified that people are credit worthy. So they started lying to get their commission. The insurance companies knew that this person's is going to fail, but they gave insurance anyway, saying that we will get bailed out. And the bank, it sold the mortgage because it could take that mortgage and sell it to somebody else, an unsuspecting victim. So there was large scale fraud. It was not just one or two people. Everybody was in the game, and they were all making money from the blood of the people. And as a result, when the global financial crisis occurred, then the level of homelessness and hunger in the USA reached record levels. It had not been seen since World War II, that level of high level of. So this was the fraud and corruption that occurred, in which everybody was involved. So the idea that we are more corrupt, again, is simply wrong. Just that people are human beings everywhere, and among them there are good people and bad people. People say, for example, it's widely believed that here we have a lot of nepotism and hiring is done only on basis of contacts and knowledge. I've been working in the higher education sector in Pakistan for about 19 years. And over this period, I have sat in many selection boards, more than I can count, where we were interviewing candidates for faculty position or for administrative positions. And not in one single case has it been the case that there was some predetermined outcome. In all cases, I did the interviewing. I was one of the panel. Everybody did the interview. We discussed the matter. We decided that this is the top meritorious candidate, and he was the one who was offered, he or she. So I never saw a single case of corrupt hiring, and yet everybody says that all cases are done on this basis of contacts only, and nobody gets jobs and merits. So this is just there's a vast difference between perception and reality. And this comes from the swallowing the white man's burden story, the Eurocentric narrative that we are inferior people, we are black people, and we don't have good character, and so we automatically will be corrupt. It is not true. And similarly, if you want to counter it that way, then in the other direction also we can find a huge amount of nepotism and hirings made for connections, because nearly all of the Trump's appointees are based on connection rather than competence, because the competent people won't accept jobs in his administration. So the truth is very different from our perception of the truth. So that's sort of a detour. Basically, what there was a battle between science and religion, and again, the Eurocentric account is just that science emerged from nowhere suddenly in the middle of Europe, full grown, without any parent. So the truth is, this is not true. When in Islamic Spain, Muslims had ruled for 700 years. This is more than the current length of time. Half of European civilization has been around for only 300 years. And they're already dead, in deep decline. They have lost all of the energy and dynamism. So in 700 years, it's not surprising that the Islamic civilization decayed and they became very much interested in luxuries and very little interested in war. And so they were taken over by these robust European barbarians who were living in hills and jungles and are strong and healthy and used to fighting in the cold. So the reconquest was completed in 1492, and then Europe spent the 16th, 17th and 18th century, 16th and 17th, basically 2 centuries, were spent in assimilating this millions of books that they had suddenly acquired, which they didn't know what to do with. They didn't. So there was a century in which Arabic was the dominant language in Europe, when they were trying to learn this language and to translate. And so these books were translated, and then these books were very often in conflict with Catholic teaching. So there was a big battle between, this is what this battle between science and religion was. It was the battle between books from Islamic libraries and primitive, superstitious European thought. And so as a result of this, Europeans became enlightened, they learned how to think, they acquired science and technology, which the Muslims had. But because of this battle that took place in Europe, there was a very dramatic consequence in the form that religion became discredited in Europe, because Catholics and Protestants fought against this incoming knowledge, and they were defeated by the new knowledge. So the scientists took their revenge, and whereas in Islamic civilization science and faith have coexisted peacefully, there was never any battle, and they are different. I mean, science tells us about why it rains, but science cannot say anything about how we should behave towards each other, whether we should be generous or whether we should be selfish. These things are the domain of religion. what are families, what are our neighbors' rights, and so on. All of these things are told by religion. Now, once religion became discredited and science won the battle after a lot of difficulty, then they decided that we are going to take over. So they said that science is the only source of knowledge and religion is only superstition. So this is what led to the birth of social science, because now they said that no, we are not going to accept religious ideas about how human behavior. So now we have to use science to find out about human behavior. So this led to a very bad foundation for social science, because understanding of the spiritual, the moral, the emotional dimensions of human beings was lost. These were rejected, these were denied. And so human beings became very flat. In European writings, in their philosophy, you often find this concept of a brain floating in a vat of fluids. So people ask that, how do I know if this world is real? Because it seems like I'm seeing these things, but what if I'm really a brain floating in a vat of fluid, and these sensations are being fed to me by electrical impulses? So then maybe all of this that I'm seeing is an illusion. Now you see, this kind of argument, which you can find in philosophy, is just argument which shows the complete, which shows actually the trauma of loss of faith. Because a normal person cannot think like this. If I cannot trust that this table is here, if I cannot, I feel my heart is beating, I feel the blood rushing in my veins, and so even you see the Pascal's question, do I exist? I think, therefore I am. This is a very, 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 very strange way to conclude that the thought process, my thought process is very weak and feeble. It often makes mistakes. I cannot count the number of times that I have given the wrong answer to questions on quizzes. So if it is my thought which makes me exist, then I'm in big trouble. Because, you see, my body is currently functioning with thousands of processes. If I was told that, okay, make sure that your heart is beating, and make sure that the blood is going in the right direction, make sure that your lungs are compressing in and out, and make sure you are breathing, I would be dead, because my brain is not sufficiently powerful to take care, my thinking process is not sufficiently powerful to take care of all of the thousands of things which are going on to maintain my life. So I exist because of these thousands of processes which are completely outside my thinking process. So it's not that I think, therefore I am. But when religion was rejected, then all of these, the one of the strongest evidence for religion is direct experience of God. And if you do the right practices, if you make dua in the right manner, if you do the right zikr, there are many prescribed, and if you work in the right way, you will experience the existence of God. There is no question, and that's how you know God. It doesn't come by logic. So when you want to deny God, then you have to deny everything. You have to deny your experience, your physical reality, your heart, your soul, there does not exist any soul. Heart is just a pump of blood. It doesn't have emotions. Well, yes, well then, why is it that my heart starts beating when I become excited? So obviously, the heart does more than just pump blood. What exactly it does is very little we know about the body. So, but when science became in the West known as the only valid source of knowledge, then all of these problems arose. They didn't fail to understand who human beings are. They failed to understand the role of. They said that everything must be proven by logic, but nearly everything that I know doesn't depend on logic. It depends on my experience, and experience is no longer. My experience is not a scientific thing because science requires replication. So all of this went outside the scope of knowledge. Similarly, morality went outside the scope of knowledge. So this is sort of a fundamental, what you might call, I will use a big word, epistemological problem. Epistemology is the theory of knowledge. Now the theory of knowledge, you see what happened was that the Europeans suffered from deep trauma resulting from loss of faith. They were deceived by their God. They had believed, all of them, very eagerly and very passionately and very fervently in their religion, and suddenly this religion was proven wrong by the scientists. And so this was a source of great shock. And so then they said that from now on I will not trust anything that I cannot touch and see. So this is the basis of their current theory of knowledge. That knowledge is only if you can touch and see it. If there is something you can't touch and you can't see, then you cannot be sure about it, because in the past when we trusted in that which we could not see, we were fooled. And so now we will never get fooled again. We will never believe in anything that we cannot see. So this idea, the current theory of knowledge, the dominant theory of knowledge in the West, epistemology, is the JTB theory of knowledge. Knowledge is only that thing is knowledge which is a justified true belief. So in order to qualify as knowledge, it has to be true. This is too high a standard. We operate all the time with things which we make guesses about. And if we were to say that no, I need something 100% true, we will never be able to get anywhere, because it's too difficult to establish 100% truth of something. And then it has to be justified. Justified meaning it's not enough that it should be true. I should be able to construct a logical argument to prove that this is true. And then if only these conditions are true, then such a belief can be part of human knowledge. So with this kind of a definition, nothing is knowledge. And then most of the things that we know and experience and feel are outside the realm of knowledge as defined in the West. And so, and in particular, the important things like morality and compassion, caring for each other, communities, all of these things, important things for our lives, families, these are not part of human knowledge. Now you have to start and build everything from scratch. So they started from this, that at least I know I exist because I think, but they haven't made much progress since then. So the individualistic knowledge that there are individuals, they have gotten this far, but that there are societies, there are families. Actually, what's her name? Margaret Thatcher, she said there is no society. It is just a collection of individuals. Now this thing is actually false. A society is different from just a collection of individuals, and you cannot understand individual action separately outside of the society, because the society influences. This is again a composition fallacy, that you take one individual action, because interactions occur, and interactions in a group, there are interactions which, if you take every individual separately, you will not be able to find. So if you analyze individual behavior separately, you will not come up with the behavior of the group. So this is just one of the many fundamental flaws in the way, basically because rejection of religion led to a complete loss of understanding about the nature of human beings, the purpose of our existence. This was lost, and human behavior is motivated by purpose. So if you want to understand human behavior, you have to understand what are human purposes. You don't have to be religious. Regardless of whether or not person believes in religion, he will be living life according to some purpose. There are many purposes: becoming famous, becoming rich, becoming popular, or many others. So, but we have to think about these purposes, and even when people are religious, it doesn't mean that their purpose is actually aligned with the purpose that the religion tells that it should be. So, but without taking into account human purpose, we cannot analyze human behavior, and we cannot analyze social behavior, because also societies have collective purposes. As together we are trying to achieve something collectively, and again this collective purpose is important. But when the concept of purpose was lost, because this earth originated in an accident, and it will die in an accident, and nothing matters. Whatever we do, it's all meaningless. This concept of meaninglessness of life is actually the basis of existentialist philosophy, which is very strong and popular, because if you're an atheist, then nothing matters. So there was a severe loss of understanding about the nature of human beings and nature of human societies, and this misunderstanding is at the basis of Western social science today, and that's why it's leading to disasters all over the world. That's one of the evidence for this is you look at the collapse of society in Europe and USA. Today, more than 50% of children are born to single mothers in America and Europe. Now the child learns everything in the family, and so if the family is not there, the child will not learn how to be a good human being. He will say that, my father wasn't even a very good human being. How can I be a good human being? He didn't care about me. He didn't he didn't teach me character, and how could he teach character when he didn't have any? So there is this issue that the whole society is being destroyed by the false understanding of social science that exists in Europe. So as I said, the revolution cannot be made in Europe and USA, it has to come from us. But the first thing we have to do is to get self-confidence that we are not corrupt and backwards people.
Sir?
Yes.
Does the human nature evolve?
Does human nature evolve? What do you mean by that?
If religion studies human nature, and if human nature evolves, then does it mean that
I think that human nature does not evolve. All babies are born in the same place, but training can be given, and some people can, and with training people can become the best of mankind, and with different training they can become the worst. But the nature which they are born with is the same.
Sir, actually, Western economics teaches us that selfishness is the nature of human being, but it is not